President,
The senator from Oregon is recognized.
I thank my colleague from Washington State for her fierce advocacy on health care and on so much more in terms of the affordability of living in America. Our families are pressed. Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent to grant floor privileges to my interns for their shadow days on the following dates: Wes Basket on January 28th, Justine Went on February 4th, Shireen Kahl on February 11th, Inez Nieves on February 25th, Maria Abrozovitz on March 4th, Finnegan Hecox on March 11th, Grace Davenport on March 18th, Kylie Huffman on March 25th, Xenia Ellis on April 15th, Anushka Pandey on April 22nd, Violet Sheehan on April 29th, Zach Marchetti on May 14th, Zach Shulik on May 20th, and Joseph Novak on June 3rd, as well as my fellows, Mary Treechuk and Robin Watson-Mosier for the rest of the year.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are considering a trio of appropriation bills, and one of those is the appropriation bill or spending bill for Interior, Environment, and related agencies. I believe that this Interior bill for fiscal year 2026 is an important step toward Congress reclaiming its constitutional power of the purse. The bill protects funding for public lands, including national parks, wildlife refuges, conservation lands, and national forests. President Trump's proposed budget slashed $1 billion from the National Park Service and created the opportunity to transfer or sell off our national park treasures. This bill rejects that vision. It has a better plan: full staffing capacity for our national parks, full complement of seasonal staff, state and tribal historic preservation offices funded, and needed park maintenance and repairs funded. President Trump proposed massive cuts to the U.S. Forest Service, which would be devastating, $1.4 billion in cuts. Those of us who live in the West, who have significant amounts of federal forests, know how much investment it takes to appropriately manage these lands. So this bill presents a better plan. It funds the Collaborative Forest Landscape Restoration Program. It preserves state forestry grants and programs for research and forest health management. It invests in hazardous fuels reduction projects and wildfire preparedness and suppression efforts. It ensures that federal wildlife firefighters are fully paid. The bill funds the Land and Water Conservation Fund at $900 million instead of a much smaller amount proposed by the President. And this bill requires that all projects get funded, not simply projects that the President favors. The bill fully funds payment in lieu of taxes, normally known as PILT, to ensure counties across the country, especially rural communities, have resources they need. The bill upholds our commitment and treaty obligations to tribes. It rejects President Trump's attempt to slash $1 billion from tribal programs. It boosts funding for the Indian Health Service. It provides resources to staff newly opened hospitals and clinics. And it preserves the Indian Health Service's advance appropriation for fiscal year 2027 to ensure that if there is a government shutdown, health care through the Indian Health Service will not shut down. That's protection for 2.5 million people across Indian country. President Trump proposed gutting the Environmental Protection Agency. This bill has a better plan. It provides almost $5 billion above his budget. It protects the Energy Star program, the water and wastewater state revolving funds, so important to so many communities across the land, and the WIFIA program, the Water Infrastructure Finance Innovation Act, that provides low-cost loans for large water projects across the country that would otherwise be unaffordable. It preserves programs for air quality management and pollution control. And the bill includes more than $1.7 billion for community-initiated projects. Now, these are projects where communities said, here's our top priority, and senators then advocated, and House members advocated, that those projects be included in this budget. That is a powerful vision of a local understanding of the best and the most important need being addressed through this bill. Often that involves replacing wastewater treatment plants or restoring critical watersheds. This bill, in addition to these programs, takes another critical step forward. When programs are included in an appropriation bill, the details of how Congress intends for those funds to be spent are traditionally laid out in report language. Now, the report language doesn't have the force of law, but in the understanding of the separation of powers, the administrations of the past respected and operated according to that report language. Every single former presidential administration has honored those directives, but not the Trump administration. And that's why we have included 140 new line items in legislative text, moving items that used to be in report language into the actual language of the law. You know, it's a challenge. It's a challenge if the administration does not respect the visions laid out through the language of our spending bills. How can members of Congress negotiate a compromise that includes priorities of different senators from different parts of the country, different House members from all over the country, if a president's going to say, well, you know what? I've decided I'm simply not going to act on some of those projects. Maybe I'll only implement the projects for red states and not blue states. Or maybe a different president might say, I'll do the projects for blue states but not red states. Or senators I like rather than senators I don't like. No, that is unacceptable. Every time you hear the phrase of the administration saying, a cabinet member or the president himself, we're going to cut programs that don't align with the administration's priorities, that is an authoritarian, strongman state comment that breaks the law and guts the Constitution. That is the administration stealing the power of the purse. The founders deliberately placed the power of the purse, the spending power, with Congress. You can read it in Article 1 of the Constitution. Because it is therefore the people's representatives who decide the design of the programs and how much money they will receive. If just the chief executive makes those decisions, then we don't have a president, we have a king, we have a tyrant, and we, here in Congress, have failed our responsibility to defend the Constitution. Yes, that Constitution, the one we took an oath to defend. It is the vision of a democratic republic that we come together from all over the country, from different walks of life, and work together to forge spending bills and authorizing bills that serve interests across this nation. In a continuing resolution last year, Congress abdicated that responsibility. We failed in defending the Constitution, and effectively handed the president a blank check. And that's exactly what Trump wanted this year. Another blank check to operate as a tyrant instead of a constitutional president. But he's not getting it. We have protections in these spending bills that take a significant stride towards defense of our constitutional responsibility and the power of the purse. Now, it is not as strong a language as I would have liked. And yes, there is vulnerability to slow walking or freezing or transferring, but we've taken a strong step in the right direction. There's more we need to do in that, more than we ever thought we had to do, but it's going to take the majority and minority parties working together to fully restore our responsibility under the Constitution. A huge thank you to the chair of the committee, the subcommittee, Senator Murkowski. She is a great partner to work with. We come from different sides of the aisle, but we both come from states full of BLM lands, Bureau of Land Management lands, that is, full of forests, full of challenges that are addressed in this bill. We both care a great deal about the environment that we have the responsibility to defend now and hand to the next generation in healthy condition. The bill that we worked on together here in the Senate, it passed the Senate committee 26-2. That says a lot. To summarize, the bill before us today rejects the president's disastrous cuts. It defends our public lands and our tribal programs and our environment. It keeps out new poison pill writers, and there were a lot of them in the House version of this bill. Together, let's proceed to do more of this kind of bipartisan work and to enable the responsibilities invested in Congress to be fulfilled in responsibility to our constituents across the nation and the structure of our democratic republic. Thank you, Mr.